you find some things, as I said before, that make you really happy. Things that have changed. By the way, if you haven't noticed the MTA Arts program, that one makes me really happy when you see the art around the transit system. You find some things that really frustrate you, which is when you ask the question about when are we going to have self-service in the subways, and the answer goes on to pages and pages and pages of explanation for why it's not going to happen this decade. You begin to get a little frustrated about what's going on. So here's where we are. We have an RFP out right now for wireless service on trains. That will be on the commuter rail trains. We have a contractual arrangement to be able to get cell service into the subway system as well, and I hope that we'll have that in the not too distant future as well. I think the time frames that have been established for this are simply unacceptable. I don't believe that we can explain to people why it will take until 2019 or something of that nature to be able to get cell service into the subways, and so we're working on a range of different ways to be able to do it. But it does turn out to be one of the more problematic and vexing issues that we're facing right now.
Thank you.
Hi, Jay. My name is Noel Hidalgo. I work for the New York State Senate's Office of the CIO. So besides the problems that you have with the State Senate, what are the top 3 obstructions that you have in getting data out to the general public?
I can't talk about the problems with the State Senate? Please?
Well, that'll be implied, I think.
So, I think my sense is, this is a huge cultural shift for our organization. And again, I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean, we are an organization that is a nuts and bolts organization. We build things that last 50, 100 years or more. And actually, you're happy about that, right? Because if we didn't build a subway system that was really designed to do that, when we go through the periods when people stopped investing in it and doing other, it simply would have fallen apart. And we're happy about the fact that in many ways we're that type of ponderous organization. But what we have to do in order to make this successful are things that are uncomfortable to us. We need to let go. We need to see whether other people can handle things in a way that we're not controlling, we're not directing, we're not approving in doing it. And I think that's a huge cultural shift for our organization. Now, along the way with that, by the way, we're going to have to accept that some things are going to happen that probably won't be exactly what we wanted. And maybe some mistakes will be made. And that's a problem for us in going through it. And we have lots of people who look at this and I think with some legitimacy say, we have intellectual property, you can't just give away your IP. You have to protect your IP. And I think there's some legitimacy to that too. But if we stay within the culture that we're in, if we seek to protect our IP, if we want to control things, if we want to drive things forward in that way, we will frustrate all of you, and we will end up in solutions that are, to say they're suboptimal, will be a big understatement. And that's what we have to be able to work through right now. And in a public eye, we have to be willing to accept that, yes, some things will happen that may not be exactly what we want, but that's okay. You try things, you do things, you see things. I'll bet some things will happen that will be a hell of a lot better than we ever thought could possibly happen, and that's the flip side of doing that.
I think there's an obligation for all of us when the MTA catches flack for being open that we kind of step up and say this is the negotiation. In exchange for that, that there's going to be a little bit of rough around the edges. We got one question in the back. I think in the interest of time, we'll probably just take one more question over here.
David Turner from OpenPlans. Are there any obstacles to releasing the coordinates of subway entrances and exits? That's the latitudes and longitudes. The data is available from the city of New York, and there's a way to get it into the GTFS, but the MTA has not yet made that official. Is there hope on that?
Yeah, I think that, I hope we will get that released. I mean, it does exist. I hope we will get it released. Frankly, there are some security concerns that get raised about some of that data. And I think, I'm not sure whether or not those security concerns are completely founded. Although I'd probably suggest that this is probably not the week to try and take on that discussion. So I think we need to be able to take rational, calm-headed view to some of these things, and I think some of the issues that come up around security, for reasons that are unfortunately all too apparent to us, move outside of that view, and I think we still need to work through that. We're trying to get that done, and I hope we will get that done for everybody.
Great. I think, as a transit geek and as a programmer and as somebody that loves our city, I've never felt better about the fact that my MetroCard renews itself whenever I have spent all its stored value. So
We're happy to.
appreciate the openness there. I think all of us can extend a warm round of applause as thank you for this event. So I think we'll still do a panel. We'll do a lightning round panel. So if we can have everybody come up, we'll kind of quickly get through it.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please. What I'd love to do is, I think we all know who Jay is. We'll have a quick round of introductions, and then I'm probably going to go to questions from the audience sooner rather than later, because I think we've covered a lot of interesting topics already. So maybe we'll start here with Derek and just go down the row, and I'll introduce ourselves.
Sure, I'm Derek Gottfrid. I'm a senior software architect at the New York Times.
I'm Tony Shorris. I run the Rudin Center for Transportation Policy at NYU.
I'm Nick Grossman, Director of Civic Works at OpenPlans, nonprofit here in the city that makes open source software to make cities work better.
I'm Beth Noveck, United States Deputy CTO and Director of the White House Open Government Initiative. I implement the Obama administration's policy on transparency, participation, and collaboration.
I'm Bernhard Seefeld. I'm the product manager for Google Maps.
Great. Before we get started, start to think of your questions. And I'll just do kind of an open question to begin with is, for each of you, how do you think this change in MTA culture is going to help you do your job or achieve the goals that you have for each of your different organizations?
So I think, at least, I don't sit in the newsroom, but our newsroom continues to cover MTA. Even a couple weeks ago, we did a story about the ridership and which entries and exits were most popular and how it was up and down. So I think for us, it continues that, and we want to look to making the data integrated into some of the applications that we're working on moving forward.
I think from our perspective, a couple answers. One is from a research side, obviously this data is pretty much essential to kind of understanding what's going on and thinking through how to shape policy differently inside the academy. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to bring a whole new set of players to the table and open up the debate about how transit should work in the city and transportation, and what is heretofore been a pretty closed conversation between people who build things or operate things or have an interest in the conversation will now become a much broader one and involve a whole different set of customers and users, and that enriches the policy debate and probably makes it more representative of the city.
A big part of what we do at OpenPlans is work with city agencies, a lot of transportation agencies, to get with open data and open source and collaborative processes. Up until now, my favorite example has been MBTA, and if you haven't talked to Josh Robin, sitting over there in the back, their developer program has been outstanding, and that's the story that I tell all around the country, so thanks, Josh. But hopefully you're going to be unseated by MTA and their efforts here, and I'll be able to say, look what they're doing in New York. It's amazing. If they can do it in here, they can do it anywhere.
Heroic, yes. Well, for us, it's not simply about the transparency. It's not just making the raw data available. It's the kind of app contests that you were talking about that are going to drive this kind of collaborative innovation that help to solve real-world problems. So whether it's providing better service to customers of the MTA so that they can improve their ridership experience, or whether it's trying to create apps for, what is it, what's the expression?
See something, say
See something, say something. If we can to bring about greater public safety, or whether it's the use of the development of apps now that help people increase civic community and participation around the transit experience, I think that'll be the really exciting thing. It's not transparency by itself, it's transparency plus the collaboration that you bring to it to solve major world problems.
Obviously, we're very glad we get even more data we can use in Google Maps to get people to transit information. And I want to people